Hey, friends, we're back in the studio for another episode of Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast. I have my boo in the studio today. Her name is Mikki Bey, and she is the most beautiful, the most talented, my sorority sister. She's also a member of the Lock Nation, too. We got our sister locks up going up in here. And Mikki Bey is just going to tell us all the things that we need to know about regulating our emotions in the workplace, at home. I mean, it's probably you practice it probably at all times, I would think. So Mikki Bey, what's up, boo? How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm fantastic. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, yes. So, we've been like quietly stalking each other on social media for quite a while. We're both Georgia Peaches now. Midwesterners turned Georgia Peaches. Isn't that
Yep.
funny how that worked out? And Mikki, I've watched you over the years, actually, your trajectory as you have kind of coined out being a leader in this emotional regulation space. What is an emotional regulation coach? Do we all need one?
Short answer is yes. Everyone everyone needs an emotional regulation coach. You know what? So when I first started out, I didn't really have like a specialization. I've been coaching for 9 years, and I was really just calling myself like a life and relationship coach. And as I started to really get into what I was helping people change, I realized it's regulating their emotions. So whether it's personally, professionally, or in their romantic relationships, it's really the thread that kind of binds all of it. And so, emotional regulation, the Mikki Bey definition of it is being able to experience the full range of emotion without judgment and being able to sit in it. So, a lot of us, especially I'm gonna speak to us sisters, the Black ladies, we tend to put so much on our plates that we don't feel at all. And then when we do
Mm.
feel this flood of emotions, we are caught off guard by how strong the emotions are. And so, my mission in life is really to help people understand that we really don't live in Georgia. We don't live in Atlanta. We live on the inside of our bodies. And if it doesn't feel good to live on the inside of your body, then we got a problem. And that's when you call me.
That's a summary for you. I was like, ooh, that we don't live in Atlanta, honey. We live inside of our bodies. So no, I
Yeah.
I totally that resonates with me so much. So our audience is practitioners. They are majority, physicians and dentists and health coaches and nutritionists. Everyone that's on a mission, at least if they're listening to my show, they're on a mission to change the trajectory of health. They're on a mission to change the future of health for themselves, for their babies, for the community.
Mhm.
And when they usually make their way to me in the marketing aspect, it's because they've just been beat up so much, or they're making a pivot in their career. Conventional medicine maybe has failed them and failed their community, and now they're trying to pick up the pieces and put their practice or back together again. Emotions are very much tied into this.
Mhm.
So much so that I've seen it prevents some doctors from collecting money like they're supposed to collect money, from being seen as worthy and a trusted authority and all of the things. Like, have you worked with a lot of doctors or a lot of like health folks to see how like their emotions get all intertwined in what they do?
Absolutely. So my background is actually in pharma, and I started off as a sales rep, right? So I was calling on HCPs, mostly
Me too,
plastic.
girl.
Yeah, I was calling on plastic surgeons and dermatologists, and then I eventually moved up into the VP ranks. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of the HCPs that I was helping, they had a lot of stress around the business piece and a lot of anxiety around revenue and how to drive revenue and how to make sure they were consistently making their numbers. And as a business owner myself, I totally understand that. But emotional regulation is actually the business strategy they're probably not thinking of, because it goes into how you lead, it goes into how much money you're making, and the process of how you're making it. And it's really a scalability tactic that you have to deploy, because as an entrepreneur, as you well know, there is going to be some flux, and you have to learn to be okay in that, in the roller coaster of emotions that you'll feel as an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of HCPs get into medicine, or dentistry or whatever,
Mhm.
and the business part was second. And they weren't really necessarily thinking of themselves as entrepreneurs before the business part. I mean, before the medical part, right?
Yeah.
And so it really is kind of a shock to their system sometimes that wow, there's a lot going on. I'm not just taking care of patients. I'm doing all of these marketing things that I don't know about, and they're experts in their field. And so it's very jarring to feel like you're a fish out of water. And that's when you call in the experts. That's why you call in somebody like Lauren. That's why you call in somebody like me. But yes, the emotions are all underneath all of those tactics that you're using in business.
What do you think is like the primary difference between like regulating your emotions and suppressing them? Like, especially for high achievers, for big back doctors, because there's plenty of opportunities I could cuss people out, honey, daily. Okay, at work with my clients. Hopefully, none of them are listening to me. I might have cussed them out late yesterday, but like, I feel like I don't want to have to suppress, my emotions and stuff. I don't like. What's the difference between the two, regulating and suppressing them?
Oh, well, they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So suppressing is there's some stimulus that I'm looking at on the outside of me and I'm giving it a meaning and it's giving me a feeling I don't like and I don't want to feel this. So I'm going to push it down and I'm going to push it away. Regulating your emotions is actually looking at that same stimulus and deciding is this positive, negative, or neutral? And what I tell people is that if you are in a situation where the stimulus comes in, you are triggered, and let's say it's a professional setting and you cannot go off, the best thing for you to do right then and there is to stop, take a breath, reset your brain, because your nervous system now thinks there's a tiger behind you and you want to attack. You're in defense mode. So you need to reset your brain first and
Mhm.
foremost. And then you need to decide how you are going to respond. And it might mean there is no response necessary at this moment. And that's when I bring out my script and I say, oh, thank you so much for sharing. I'll have to get back to you so that I can remove myself and give myself some space. Regulating your emotions in the moment really comes down to the meaning that you're giving what the stimulus is. So, as I mentioned, positive, negative, or neutral are your only options. And so, if you know something came in and you were like, "Ooh, okay, I felt that. It's stinging." What meaning am I giving it? Your brain is making these determinations very quickly based on your past experiences. So, as a rep, when I was a rep, if I had gone in and seen 5 plastic surgeons, and when I got to this specific question, they always went off on me, by the time I get to the 6th plastic surgeon and ask that question, it's already programmed in my mind that this is what's going to happen, whether that person says it that way or not. Right. So that's what our brain is doing to us all the time. It's going back to the past and trying to figure out what is it? Is this situation safe for me or not? And if you are in that moment right now where you have to maintain professionalism, the best thing that you can do is decide it is neutral. That there is nothing I need to do about it in this moment. It is just what was said. I don't need to say anything about it. I don't need to do anything about it. I'm going to put a pin in this and say, no big deal internally to self, because this is an internal conversation we're having right now, to
Mhm.
self.
Mhm.
No big deal. This is something I'm doing to soothe myself in the moment. And when I can get space away from the situation, I will then decide what meaning I want to attach to it and what I want to do about it.
Oh my God, this is a whole sermon right here. So like if you're thinking like I'm relating it like in real time, like back to like, the givers and the leaders and the doctors that I work with on a day-to-day basis. So now I want to kind of go down to a different side of the discussion. Let's talk more business. Are you cool with that?
Yeah,
More
let's
business.
go.
So like I've got doctors who actually have burned out and switched careers because their emotions were wrapped up too much in their relationships with their patients. They literally were taking on like I have a lot of pediatric folks that work with ADHD and all that stuff. They said they are taking on the burdens from their family. They're taking on the stress the children are feeling. So much so, some people are changing careers. Like it's not meant to be that way. So how do you separate your emotions if you're a practitioner and a healer and like you connect with your people? How are you able to make those boundaries if you're literally you make money because you care so much? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. And I can answer this very well because I'm a life coach, right? So I hear some stories. I hear a lot. And I remember at the beginning of my career, it was very taxing on me because I was dealing with a lot of energy. So understanding that emotions are just energy and it has to be transmuted. If you do not transmute the energy and you don't dump it any type of way, you are suppressing it, right? So when you get all this heavy information coming in from all of these patients that of course you have a heart for them, you want to help them and you don't want them to be their families to be in peril, but you have to give that energy emotion somewhere to go. So I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of doctors are very active. They like to run. You have to transmute that energy into something else. If you're not a runner, do you journal? How are you dumping all of this out of your brain? You need to get it out of your brain and into the world some type of way. So for me, my number one emotional regulation tool is journaling because you can tell
Hmm.
your journal anything and it don't talk back. And sometimes you just need to get it out so that you can release it. But my answer to that is actually to not try to make yourself not feel it. It's not about not feeling it. What you will learn about emotions is that if you are really present with the emotion when it comes up, it only lasts about 90 seconds, no matter what the emotion is. What is keeping the emotion alive when they get home is they're thinking about it. So if you change your thought process, the emotion will actually go straight through your body and be released. You will not hold on to it. So that's what I do in my we could be in a session right now, Lauren, and I could be right there emotionally with you. We could be crying. I could be all of that. But when I hang up the phone with
You
you,
give it away. You just throw it
it's
away.
gone. It's gone. So
I
it
can't
that
do that. I gotta talk
you
to my
can.
husband. I
I'm
gotta tell my
telling you.
kids.
I'm telling you. And also let me say that emotional regulation is a skill,
Hmm.
which means anybody can learn it. So, with my program, I always tell people if you do what I'm telling you to do and you practice it, you will change. There's no doubt about it because I'm not teaching you this airy fairy, woo woo
Yeah.
stuff. I'm teaching you an
Yeah.
actual skill that if you continue to practice it, it will become second nature. Emotional regulation is the lens in which I live my life through. This is how I parent. This is how I run my business. I used to be a pop off patty. I'm from Detroit. I used to be the kind of person where,
I can't
yes,
tell it all.
yes. Well, I tell people all the time, I teach this because I need it. I don't take any days off from emotional regulation. I am constantly emotionally regulated. It's not this static destination at the end of the GPS system and once you get there it says you've arrived. It is this constant continuum of learning and it's a journey. So
Hmm.
emotional regulation is literally the vehicle I put myself in every day to accomplish all of my goals.
I need that vehicle. Like it just kind of made me think about just other ways that emotions, lack of control over your emotions shows up in your body. Like what happens biologically when
Mm.
we're dysregulated? I
Oh,
know
that's a good
for
question.
like my husband and for some other folks, it's physical for them. So sometimes like skin reaction, headaches. I know for women that are like perimenopause, we got hormones, we got sleep issues, we got gut issues. But I wonder if perimenopause would be easier if we wasn't so hot, cold, up and down. You know what I mean? Not literally hot and cold, but like
Yeah.
where we're on this like because that happens too. But you're on this like roller coaster of trying to be understood socially, professionally, and at home. And like what happens like literally biologically to your body when you're all over the place like that?
So every single person has a physiological response first. Everybody. So not just your
Mhm.
husband, not just, whomever. Your before your brain can say I'm angry, there are physiological sensations happening in your body. So for me, I stop breathing. That is my first clue something is wrong. I hold my breath.
Really? My
Oh yeah.
chest gets tight.
Yep. So there you go. So you
It's
can
right
you can
here, right in the
yep,
heart.
there you go. So for me, I hold my breath. When I realize I'm not breathing, I know something has occurred.
Hmm.
Right. So this is a part of that emotional regulation process is identifying the triggers. What is your body telling you? Right? Because there are cues that are happening. I hold my breath. I would say get a little bit hot. I start to feel hot and flustered. And I curse in my head. And so when I say this particular phrase, I'm like, okay, something has happened. And that phrase is what the fuck, right? So when I say what the fuck to myself, I know that there is something that is happening to me, or that I'm experiencing, that is causing a reaction on the inside of me. So before my brain can even take it to, oh, I'm angry, I'm irritated, whatever it is,
You done lost your breath and said, "What the fuck?" Before
in
you
my brain,
even
yes, yes. But what's so good about that is that without awareness, you cannot change anything. So the first step is
Amen. Put that
really
down.
getting people to understand what happens when you are triggered. What is going on inside of your body when you are triggered. And if we can start to pinpoint those things, I know one of my triggers is disrespect. When I feel disrespected, I'm gonna say what the fuck, and I'm also I'm also going to stop breathing. So when that happens, I automatically am on high alert. You need to be cognizant of how you respond here, because you are triggered. Now, what happens now is, because I know that those are my triggers, when they are present, I got a head start. I got a head start because I'm not caught off guard anymore. As soon as I'm holding my breath, as soon as I'm cussing in my head, I know what time it is. So it's about having a plan of how to manage the trigger when it shows up. It's going to show up. Triggers are natural. My job is not to
Mhm.
eradicate your triggers. Your triggers are there because your body has made this your brink security system. At no time am I telling you you're not supposed to have a trigger. Now, what I am saying is that your triggers will lessen. My triggers are not landmines anymore. I'm not,
Mhm.
people don't have to like walk gingerly in my life, because if they step wrong, I'm going to just explode. But I was like that. I've been there. I've been to where you couldn't say anything to me, or the wrath of my mouth would meet you.
Yeah,
Right.
and people be
So
afraid to approach you and just afraid to,
definitely.
like, talk to you, or employees aren't honest with you, all the things because you're so, like, well, I guess unapproachable would be the word that people may use, or
Well,
just afraid.
let me say this. This is not my first rodeo. I've been a entrepreneur for 16 years. I had a very successful salon in LA for almost a decade, and that was a wildly successful venture. I was on Shark Tank in 2015 with that, but I was a horrible boss.
Mm.
I was a horrible leader, and I am appalled
You just
at my
left a trail of tears, like, in your
I
in
did.
your
I did. I mean, I probably over that time, over the decade, I was an owner of that salon. I probably had 60 to 70 employees in that full time.
Yeah.
I would say at least, I might be being too generous to myself, at least a third of them, if not more, would say Mikki Bey is an asshole, right? Because I was at the time. I started that business in my early 20s, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was not ready for the success of it. My first time with
Mhm.
money. It was a whole storm of things that
Mhm.
um went against me being emotionally regulated, and also just my story of origin. I come from a family who argued, and there was domestic violence in my house. There
Mm.
was a lot of different things that were going on that I realized as an adult that's still there, right? And so the way that I did conflict was the way that I learned conflict in my home, which was not a healthy way to
Yeah.
be in conflict. So if I felt threatened in any way, it was time to chop you down. And at a
Mhm.
certain point, to really bring this back home, at a certain point I realized, oh, this is detrimental to me. Like, it doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel good to live on the inside of my body and be that person. And when I changed, the number one compliment I get from people is, you have amazing energy. Like, that is the compliment. The compliment is, I want to be next to you, right? Because you have amazing energy. People who pop off do not have, they're not effervescent, they're not magnetic, because they're always 1 second away from being the pop off patty.
You gotta remind her, you gotta keep you gotta remind them that she's still there.
She is there. And you know
She's
what?
there.
And also, I don't judge myself for the days where that comes out, because there are those days too. I never want anybody to think just because I teach emotional regulation, I don't have the days where I'm not emotionally regulated. I absolutely do. But the time it takes for me to get back to neutral is a lot quicker
Yeah.
than what
Yeah.
it used to be. And that's the goal.
And also too, people when we're talking about emotional dysregulation, I know we're skewing towards the more humorous side. It doesn't mean it's anger. It could be a
Right.
lot of different ways that your emotions show up. So I have a marketing question for you. Because
Hmm.
if you guys have not seen her Instagram, Mickey's Instagram or her website, like she's a fabulous, fabulous marketer on lots of different channels. Um, and I want to know, like, how are you making people problem aware? Because not everybody is actually aware that this is an issue. In fact, some of us even may have confrontations with our clients, with our friends, with our colleagues about their attitude, be it good or, whatever the issue is, and they're not even aware or receptive. It's almost like this is a weird juxtaposition, but almost like marketing to a narcissist. Like narcissists aren't going to tell you that they are a narcissist. So how are you making your audience aware that this issue is present in their life so that they actually start consuming your content and taking a next step? Like, how are you connecting with us folks that are unaware and unhinged out here?
To continue to die on the hill of your emotions are your responsibility. You are 100% responsible for how you feel. That ruffles so many feathers
What do you
because
mean?
people, okay, because so in for instance, this summer I had a video that went viral. The viral video went viral because I told someone you're the problem. The problem isn't that someone's pushing your buttons. The problem is that the button is there for them to push.
Mm,
And the issue is that we are human, our human ego is lazy. We want to go outside of ourselves before we go inside of ourselves. And my job, really, as an emotional regulation coach, is to say, hey, if you coming to me for your marital problems, I'm not even going to let you say his name. Tell me about you. Tell me about what's going on the inside of you. Dysregulation shows up in so many different ways. It can show up in the form of anxiety. It can show up in the form of making impulsive decisions. It can show up in the form of being hot
mm.
headed, right? It can show up in the form of not being able to make decisions. It can show up in a lot of different ways and it's different for everyone. But ultimately, I help people who know that their emotions are holding them back from whatever it is, right? And only that's you have to be at least that self-aware to say, I know that I could be further along in my business, in my life, in my marriage, as a mom, whatever, if I wasn't so consumed with what's going on in my internal environment. So my job when I show up on social media is to continuously wave the flag that the problem is not your coworker. The
Mm.
problem is not your husband. The problem are not your kids. The problem is on the inside of you. And until you go internal before you go external, that is my only ask of any of my
Okay.
clients. As long as you go in before you go out, you do not get to pop off on this person because you are
Okay. So
just
how did they
feeling,
go in before they go out?
why does this upset me? Why
Yeah.
do I feel disrespected by this? What is this here to teach me? This is a moment that is curated specifically for you. It is in front of you right now. You are the person that is experiencing it. So there's no argument that is for you. It is for you. What are you supposed to be getting from this moment? Instead of just
Mm.
going to, well, this person's a narcissist and this person, all of that could be true. Why are you in it?
Mm.
It's
Mm.
for you. So
Yeah.
again, people don't want to hear that because if I am emotionally dysregulated, I want it to be somebody else's fault. But if it is someone else's fault, it gives you no opportunity to change it. You cannot force your husband to be any kind of way. You can't
Mhm.
force your employees to be any kind of way. You can change your environment for how your environment feels by changing your internal environment first. So, all of my marketing has to do with personal responsibility. No matter if I'm talking about whatever subject with emotional regulation, it starts with you, it ends with you. And that is a very powerful stance to be in.
Yeah, so I love you're speaking, like, directly to the person and making putting their problems right in front of them. And I wanna keep kinda drilling down on this marketing thing because, we're always giving, like the people come to this show so they can do something different. So they can do something different in their business, in their life. We're gonna get to, like, your tips and things for us to start practicing, on our day-to-day basis. But from a marketing standpoint, How can somebody who is learning your methods of emotional regulation, how can they use that for their advantage if they are actually like on a sales call? All of my folks are high ticket, right? So they go
Same.
10, 20,000, just like, very similar space with you where you charge what you're worth, right? And you receive said money. How can you use these tools not to manipulate, but to actually like help somebody make a decision on why you're the next best choice? Because we all, our buying habits are all emotionally regulated, I would think, or emotionally, charged, right? So how do
Yes.
you use that when you're like just on discovery calls and like in growing your business?
Detach.
What does that
Detach.
mean?
You have to detach from the outcome. As the person who is doing the sales call, I am showing up with the energy of, first of all, is this going to be a good fit for this person? Is
Yeah,
it a good fit for me? I'm assessing that first and foremost. Do I feel I really can help this person? If I do, I'm going to share that. And I'm going to offer them an opportunity to help themselves with whatever vehicle it is that I'm offering them. They get to say yes or no.
easy.
Being clear is being kind. And so I am very clear before they even get on the phone with me that this is a decision call. And so
Mm-hmm.
got on the call knowing I was going to ask you where you are going to land at the end of this. And I go into every single one of those calls knowing that I'm going to serve. I am there to give. I'm not there to take. The exchange of the money that is happening is for the client, not for me, because this is the tool that you have to use to exchange for the service that you need. So
Mm-hmm.
I am removed from whether or not they are going to do this with me. First, is this the right fit for us? Do you need what I have? And
Mm-hmm.
then what what would it take for you to move forward today? Because you know you have the problem. You booked the call. You watched all of the things that led you up to having a call with me. So then it's around, how do I get around the objections, which are all emotionally charged, because most people are fearful, especially when there is a high ticket involved. So as the person doing the sales call, you have to already know what their brain is going to do. And I am very compassionate with the people who are on the phone with me, because
Mm-hmm.
I know that they are freaking out on the inside for how much money they're about to turn over. But I tell them the things that they don't know. I tell them, this is the only part you have to do on your own. If you can get to the yes, you will be guided to your result. And they have to understand what the money is being used for. The money is just a tool. Your programming does not want you to make this decision. So you have to, as the person doing a sales call, you have to know that they are fighting against their past experiences. They may have had a bad experience with somebody just like you where they didn't get the result, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they are thinking about all of these reasons as to why they shouldn't. And my signature line is, okay, tell me all the reasons you shouldn't do it. If they've given me an objection, tell me all the reasons you shouldn't do it.
It's a good
Okay.
one.
My only ask is that we balance that out with all the reasons you should. Tell me all the reasons you should do it. And let's
That's good.
talk through that. Right? And the idea as the salesperson is to not feel icky about sales. I have to sell you in order to change your life. I feel great about that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to show up on the sales call as my best self in order to get you from your A to B. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really about your mindset that you're going into the sales call with. Are you going into it like, oh my God, I don't know what they're gonna say. I don't want to. You don't even feel good about the number you're saying. So how could they feel good about spending it?
Right. Right, right. Oh, if you stumbling over the words. Now, I've never had a problem talking about the cash. No,
There
I'm
you
gonna get
go.
the money. I'm gonna get the money.
A
So,
lot of doctors do though. A lot of
mhm.
HCPs have
Oh,
a
they
very hard
hate it.
time.
Hate it.
Yes. Yeah.
They are averse in many ways to charging what they're worth. It's an evolution to get there.
Yep.
To, especially if you switch from insurance to a cash model. Charging what they're worth, and then like actually just doing that service and nothing else. Stop giving them your cell phone number. Stop going, too far above and beyond to where you're diluting the money that they gave you. You know,
Yeah.
this is that whole mindset portion of that, the money mindset. It's a big deal in the practitioner world.
It is.
Big,
And
big deal.
honestly, the mindset is easy. It's regulating your emotions around the mindset, because there's so much that goes into even just showing up to this sales call and having the neutrality on the inside of your body. If you are nervous and anxious, that is going to come across. If you are not really in a position where you feel like you're the authority, that's going to come across. And so all of this is emotional. It's an energy. You're exchanging energy with this person, even if it's virtual, and they are going to feel that. So you're always, always with precision getting back what you're
Mhm.
putting out.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think this is such a great conversation. On your Instagram, you make it clear that you are not a therapist. You make it very,
Yes.
very clear.
Yeah.
So, do I need this in addition to therapy? Like, what makes it so much different, I
Oh,
guess?
that's an excellent question. So fun fact, about 90% of my clients are also in therapy. We do very different things. So, the lens that I work from is really, are you the person you want to be now and into the future? And generally speaking, therapy is going to take it to the past. It's going to want to go to your childhood, it's going to want to talk about your traumas. And my perspective on that is, you don't have to go back to go forward, as long as you are actually dealing in real time with how you are feeling. So that is what my goal is. Therapy is about holding space, coaching is about being held accountable. Two
Mhm.
different things. So I'm gonna hold
Mhm.
space for you, but I'm also going to hold you accountable to what you say it is that you want. People do not change without accountability. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that I always tell people is that therapy is amazing, but I want to know why you've been in therapy for 10 years, 20 years, right? It is set up for management. It is really not set up for healing. What I am teaching you will go the rest of your life, right? So, you come
Mhm.
into my program, I'm going to teach you this skill that you can then use in every aspect of your life to see emotional changes, which is all you ever really need to change. Change your internal environment, your external environment will change
Yeah.
automatically. And
Yeah.
so once they learn that and they see how they work very well together, most of my clients will do both.
Okay, okay. So I'm gonna go back to a little bit where we were talking about your clients just being problem aware, like where
Mhm.
they actually know they got something, a screw that's a little bit loose, and they need some support, right? So let's now just start thinking about like what are the signs? Because I'm talking now to our audience of a lot of practitioners who may not know if they fit in this category, but I know as their colleague, marketer, friend, they got super high turnover in the office. I know that they are backlogged with treatment plans and charts. I know for some people, their home life is very, disrupted, or there's a divorce pending, or there's things that any human would struggle juggling. Like, what
Mhm.
are some signs that you could possibly need some emotional regulation support? Is it the high turnover? Is it the divorce happening at the same time you're moving? Like, what are some key factors, especially when we're talking about like practitioners and folks like that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it's such a vast answer that I could
Yeah.
give, because everyone is different. But let's just kind of break it down. Overwhelm. If you are consistently overwhelmed, and what does that look like? I can never make it anywhere on time. I feel like I never have time to do anything for myself or for my kids. I feel like I'm stretched thin. I'm always saying I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I don't have enough. Everything is just stretched, right? That's one indication. Anxiety. Usually people are having so much anxiety about the other shoe dropping that you're
Mhm.
really missing what you need to be doing in the now. And so anxiety is a big one as well. You talked about burnout earlier. Burnout is a real thing. So I want to be very, very, very clear with your audience that we're not using like a buzz term when we're saying burnout. Burnout,
Burnout. Mhm.
like when you hit the wall and you literally cannot go anymore. And I think a lot of times people are experiencing burnout symptoms, which can look like you just stop caring. You stop caring about anything. That's why you got the backlog, right? You stop paying attention to what your staff is doing, because you are just trying to manage what's going on with yourself. But the thing about being burnt out is that it is a fuse, and you got two choices. You are going to implode or explode. And
Mm-hmm.
if you implode, that's going to look like maybe autoimmune issues that come up, or
Mm.
like headaches and ulcers and all those types of things where that energy never got a place to go. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be, it's going to be stored somewhere, or you're going to explode. Lots of HCPs have terrible tempers and do not speak kindly to their staffs. And at a certain point, that becomes a toxic workplace environment, and you're going to have a lot of turnover with that. So you have to always, as an owner in general, I don't care what type of business owner you are, if there are problems under your ship, you need to take that on and say, what is it that I'm doing that is causing this? It's the same thing that I said around, it's 100% your responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to just offload it because you have an employee who's responsible for it. If your
Mm-hmm.
employee is not meeting the job descriptions, whose fault is that? It's yours as the leader,
Mm-hmm.
because you're
Mm-hmm.
not holding accountable. A lot of the things that you've said, Lauren, have to do with not holding boundaries, and that's also a sign of burnout.
And the doctors do that. No boundaries most of the
No
time.
boundaries.
They're learning.
Not holding, and that's worthiness too, right? So not feeling
Mm-hmm.
worthy of saying no.
No. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So all of that, I mean, it all works hand in hand with each other. But I think ultimately, what the people that come to me, I always say, are in the place of, I cannot go any further. I know something is up. Like, I know I should not be feeling like this on a day to day basis. Now, the difference between coming to me at that point and going to a psychologist is that if you are experiencing like depression, where you cannot get up out of bed and you in the dark for 3 days in a row, do not call Mickey. I'm gonna send you right.
You can't get me out of
Right?
bed.
I can't come get you out of bed. I'm gonna send you right to behavioral health, right? Because that's not my area. But
Yeah.
if you know, like, I am snapping at my kids and they didn't do anything, and I don't have the energy to be the best mom that I want to be, and that hurts me. And I know that I'm not being the best entrepreneur or even doctor that
Yeah.
I want to be,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't have it. It's you only have so much capacity. And if you continue to run your capacity so low, at some point you will hit a wall, and you're going to need someone, maybe a team of people, to even help you get out of that. And I'm speaking as someone who was
Yeah.
actually burnt out when I came out of pharma. I had to take 6 months off where I had to just put myself back together, learned emotional regulation, also went to therapy. I did a number of things, started working
Mm-hmm.
out. As you know, I've lost 100 pounds
Mm-hmm.
last 3 years, all through emotional regulation. That's actually what I should tell you, Lauren.
Hmm.
Ask yourself, what do you do when you are feeling these emotions? For me, I ate. And
That was your
okay,
thing.
so am I coming home and drinking a bottle of wine? Am I ending up in somebody's bed I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be in?
Oh, snap. I was
Am
gonna
I
stop at the wine, but you said, nah, who we
No,
fucking?
because we gonna tell it. We gonna tell it. Because look, all of these
It's a
vices are
vice.
just, yep, all of these vices are just ways that grown people are trying to feel better. I have no judgment on any of it.
Sure, sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Are you drinking? Are you over shopping?
Hmm.
Are you overeating? Oop, oop. I must have hit something over here. Okay.
Not talking
Are
to me.
you, uh-huh. Are you overindulging in any way? Right. So these are
Yeah.
all ways we are attempting to self-soothe that are just in a non-healthy way. I would say, if you know you have a problem in those areas, it's time to call me.
So, all right, now I'm curious. What are a couple of things that we can just do, before we even get to you? Because I know you give a lot of resources and tools and stuff on all your various channels. So, what are just some things, if any of those, I'm not going to say what you called me out on. I don't think anybody needs to know that.
I think
But,
they call
right. So, for everybody except me that possibly needs some tips or some resources or little things to do. Like, I heard you say journaling is like the key. Recognizing where you feel the emotion first. Like, what are just a few things that we can practice, before we hop on a call with you?
I like to make a list. So we just talked about vices. make the opposite list. Everything in this world is about balance. So if I'm doing this thing over here that we're going to call, for lack of a better term, like negative or like the bad thing, what is a positive thing that I could do in its place? So if I would normally come home and drink a bottle of wine, is there another beverage that I could drink that would feel just as good to me, that is non-alcoholic, or that is not going to be the full bottle? Maybe I just drink a wine cooler and it's a set amount, right? That's actually progress. I think a lot of times with high achieving people, we want to go from 0 to 100 with change.
Of course.
And that is not because we're good at a lot of things, but that's really not what I want you to focus on. First and foremost, I want you to focus on the awareness of what you are doing. Once you then know what you are doing, then can I make a list for myself to just say, these are the things I'm going to do when I'm feeling overwhelmed? I'll give you what my list is because it's top of brain. My list, I have things that require money and things that don't require money. If I'm just in my house, I know I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to go take a bath. That is my go-to, just relax, get myself back regulated. I also journal, which I told you about. Then I have paid things. I'm a nail girly. You're never going to catch me without my nails done. But exactly. But when I go get my nails done is typically when I need to reset, because I know
this is true.
All I have to do is sit there like this. I don't have to talk. I don't have to engage. I don't have to be Mikki Bey. I get to sit there and be anonymous and get my nails done. So that is one of the things that helps me to kind of come back into myself. I also work out. I know you work out. Working out is easy. I have a whole bunch of stuff I can do at home. I could also take my butt to the gym or go to Pilates. So I have a list of things that I know will help me to feel better. And let me quantify what feeling better is. 1%.
That's 1%. All. Just a little bit better.
A little bit better. A little bit better. It takes my mind off of whatever I was ruminating over. Because remember, the emotion is 90 seconds. Keeping it alive by the story you're telling it. And so if I'm going to get my nails done, I got just enough time to get myself out of whatever story I'm telling myself around whatever the upset was.
I hope that everyone is taking notes and stuff. We'll have all of these tips in the show notes, but she just gave you your whole life in a 45-minute discussion on acknowledging where emotions are holding us back and keeping us from being successful in our clinics and in our practices and our relationships in our homes. Mikki, you have just totally blessed us. I'm definitely going to have you back on so we can talk about some more stuff. But until then, Mikki, tell everybody where they can find you and consume all your information and reach you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm most active on Instagram. So you can always reach me on Instagram, which is at Get Mikki Bey, GetMikkiBey, on all platforms, but I'm most active on IG. My website is the same, getmikkibey.com. But the best way, if you want to contact me, is really just to shoot me a DM. I have myself and my team, we're constantly manning it. So if you hit me up on Instagram, you can always do that. And we'll also put my email inside the show notes as well.
Yes. You guys make sure you head over to the show notes so you can make sure you connect with our girl, Mikki Bey, the emotional regulation coach. That is going to be a phrase that you're going to hear more and more and more as the year 2025. I bet you everybody's going to be talking about their emotions and regulating emotions, especially with all the things going on right now, right? So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast with me. You can find this show anywhere where all platforms are. YouTube, Apple, iTunes, everywhere. Download the show, share it with your friends. Let them know that this is the place for all things to grow, scale, and just explode in your health business. Until we meet again, thank you so much, Mikki Bey, for your time. I'll see y'all next week. Hey, y'all, thanks for tuning in to Power Moves Health Marketing Podcast. If you're ready to transform your practice with smarter strategies and cutting-edge tools, I want you to head over to microsite.com to book a strategy session with me and my team. While you're there, check out the show notes for links, resources, and my free Power Moves playbook. Remember, every move you make is a step toward becoming the health business leader you're meant to be. Let's keep building your momentum.